What's up? What's up, y'all? What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh, yes. Welcome, welcome,
What up,
welcome.
Ashton?
It's another Saturday night. And for those of you that are hanging with us tonight, thank you. And of course, you don't see Sean. She had an emergency, so she's not going to be with us tonight. Send her love, and she said she is so sorry that she couldn't hang out with us tonight, but we got her next. She's next. It'll, should be all right. So y'all could
We got
just
a
make send
dope
it.
show for y'all. So, we're going to miss one host, but I guarantee you all, I'm on the scene right now. It's your boy, Abel Scott. And even though we are missing our Sean, we are going to have a phenomenal show today. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this topic jumping again because it was definitely a juicy one last session.
So back with us today is none other than relationship intimacy coach, Miss Shamaree Brissett. So we would like to welcome her back to the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, lady, how are
Hey,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Hey,
Welcome back.
Yes,
Welcome
thank you for
back.
having me back.
I look, trust me, I'm more than honored that you come back. We can
Mhm.
get back into the swing of things because the last show was really, really good. We had a little, steamy, little learned a little something. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
what it's all about. It's all about um, just being open and transparent and being able to talk and just share experiences.
Mhm.
You want to tell our listeners something about you because we didn't do that last week. We just jumped right into the show. So if you would do us the honor and just tell people about you, who you are.
Yeah. So my name is Shamaree Brissett, and I was trained as a therapist. So I'm a marriage and family therapist. But I recently started doing relationship and intimacy coaching. So now I'm doing that as well. And I specialize in empowering women to get the confidence and the pleasure that they deserve, so that they're no longer settling for lack of satisfaction, especially when it comes to relationships. So the reason I kind of moved towards opening up the coaching is because with therapy, you can only see people who are licensed in the same state that you're in. And so with that, it kind of limits you. And if you listened last time, you heard a little bit about my story. And whenever I was getting help, I didn't see anyone that looks like me. And so I want to be that person for someone who is looking for someone that looks like them, who has been there, who has the education, has the experience. And so that's kind of the motivation for it. I want to be the person that I needed back then.
Okay, that's good motivation. Powerful story too. Wanting to be able to um, be the motivation that you needed. You saw because there wasn't one. You started where there was a need, so you jumped right into it. So that's a good thing. You want
Mhm.
to tell us about again your book, your courses that you offer for those that didn't catch us last week, um,
Mhm.
that are now viewing. You could tell them a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so I mean, if you see back there, I have a workbook. It's called Better Sex. It's the guide to confidence, satisfaction, and orgasms without
Mhm.
faking. And it is a part of my course. So I created an online course. It's designed as a 6-month course to kind of take you through the journey of confidence, satisfaction, and orgasms or pleasure, and whatever that looks like for you. But the course is available now. It's currently 50% off, and I do have a coupon code that I'll share as well. That'll get you like an extra $50 off. You get to keep the course forever, but more or less, there's tons of activities. There's videos where I'm kind of sharing information, kind of like what I'll do today, and just telling you about the different things that I've experienced, that I've seen with clients, to guide you on your journey to really no longer having to fake your confidence, fake that you're happy, or fake that you had an orgasm. You can actually have real ones.
Okay, okay, that sounds good. Oh, when in the realm of intimacy, are there any like? building blocks, any specific building blocks that a person would need to know about in order to build intimacy into a relationship?
Yeah, so I mean, part of it is obviously knowing what intimacy is, and intimacy is closeness. And so, obviously, like we talked about before, like you can be close to someone in a lot of different types of ways. But just in general, if you're wanting to build intimacy, there are a few things that I think that you could should start with. And so, I do have like 5 ways that I think are like really effective. But the first one, the most important, is prioritizing it. So, prioritizing the relationship, and this is not only in romantic relationships, but obviously in romantic relationships, right? So, you want to prioritize it. So, if you think it's important to you, the person's important to you, making sure that you're putting it towards the top of your list. So, yeah, maybe you have kids, maybe you have a job that you have to go to, you can't lay up all day with this person, but making sure that when you do have time, that you're making the time and you're making it something that's very important. So if you set an appointment, you set a date with this person, treat it like you set an appointment for a doctor, or you said something that was important. It's important to you, so treat it that way.
Exactly. I know um, one of the things I'm big on, I'm not physical with it, but I'm big on emotional intimacy. That's something that I'm really sometimes long for, but at
Mhm.
the same token, it scares me. You know, it's like I want to be close to somebody, but I don't want to be close to somebody simply because when you open yourself up like that on that level, because it's a higher realm almost,
Mhm.
you become vulnerable and you share things and within that space, and a person really has the power at that time to hurt you or cause pain. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that maybe wants to feel that closeness, but they're afraid to feel that closeness?
Mm. Yeah, I think that all of us, we're human. We get worried or we get concerned about being judged or being looked at in a certain way. And I think that we don't like to give away our power, but there's also power in being able to stand in your truth. So being open. So obviously, if you just meet somebody, you don't need to go tell them your whole life story. Like you need to kind of analyze the person and who they are, what they've shown to you. So we should be vetting people all the time. Like we don't walk up to a stranger and be like, my dad used to beat me every day. Like that's not appropriate. It's not something that makes sense. So after you've kind of gotten to know someone, sharing little bits of information along the way, because that's another way to build intimacy. The more that we share things with people, the closer we feel to them. So regardless of who this person is in our lives, this is one of the reasons why like group therapy works, is because they put you in this setting where now you're revealing parts of yourself. And the more that you reveal parts of yourself, the person can see you in a different way. So, yes, they could potentially go tell your business. Yes, they could potentially call you weak. They could potentially take advantage of that. But that also gives you the opportunity to feel closer. Usually, the more that I share, I make other people comfortable to share because now they see like, oh man, she's really telling her story. She feels open. Like it's safe for me to do the same. Like she did it and she's okay. Like nothing bad happened to her. She didn't perish. She didn't get hurt right now. So like maybe I can too.
Right, right. So is there like a timeline? Like I know when you said when you first meet somebody, you don't want to just blurt out all your business and tell them everything up front. But how would you say to pace yourself? Like I'm an open book. I'm always an open book. Sometimes I talk too much and I reveal too much. So
Hmm.
how do you know like at what intervals in a relationship or a situation where you begin to divulge more of who you are to that person with the hopes of building that intimacy and achieving that closeness that you desire.
Yeah, I think a little bit of it has to do with kind of the time spent and the quality of the time spent. So there's people that I like. I used to hang out with them all the time, but I ain't never tell them none of my personal business. So like we would hang out all the time. Like, oh, you want to go to dinner? You want to go to the club? You want to do this? You want to do that? Yeah, let's go. Because I know that they're going to be down for that. Like, you can categorize people by what they show you, right? So like if you show me that you my club friend, I'm gonna call you to go to the club.
Mm-hmm.
If you show me that you just want to be a friends with benefits, then I'm gonna put you in that category as friends with benefits, and you don't need to know all the traumatizing parts of me unless it affects you. So when it affects you, then obviously I should share that, right? So if I'm being rude to you because I had bad past experiences, I should probably give you a little bit of context to that. So like it's not about you, but I used to be in an abusive relationship. So this is why I'm acting like this. So you don't necessarily have to tell the details of it, but give people context so that they can understand where you're coming from and they can either deal with it or not.
Right, 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 right.
And you bring up an amazing point that most people don't even touch on is putting people in the proper box. Everybody could, just because someone's a friend don't really mean they're really a friend or they got the best interest at heart. And like you mentioned, like a friend had to tell me one day, so I called him up to help me move one day, and he was like literally honest. He was like, "Listen, I'm your friend, but I'm not that kind of friend." And I was a little thrown by that, but I was like, I gotta respect the honesty
Mhm.
of knowing his position in my life, even if I didn't know his position in my life. He knew his boundaries of what he was willing and not willing to do, and he called me on it and just put it right out there on Front Street and left it for me to decide whether if I could deal with that or not. So a
Right.
lot of people don't do that in regards to gauging who their friends are and what box they belong in. And we just befriend a whole bunch of people and love me, I love you, and then we get hurt.
Mhm.
So in your process of gauging people and putting them in their appropriate categories, what are some of the criteria you use for determining that?
I mean, part of it is like the types of conversations that you have. Like, I think that a little bit of it is always going to be testing or risking something. So, like, if you try to share something like, man, I'm really going through this right now, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's crazy, and they don't really give you anything,
Right.
that kind of tells you, okay, maybe they're not in the place for this right now. And you can kind of see, like, well, are you okay? What's going on with you currently? And if they're okay, they just don't want to talk to you about it, then that kind of
Right.
tells you how they feel about the relationship. And then you should kind of adjust appropriately. Because then that's, like you said, that's when you get hurt, when you try to make someone into more than what they even want to be. So I can try and try and try to make you my best friend, to make you my husband. But if that's not what you want, it's never going to happen. I'm just going to hurt myself in the process. So it's definitely sharing a little bit along the way. Like I said, giving that context, like, yeah, I've been through this, or like, I'm having a really tough time right now. Like, I don't even know what to do. And depending on how they respond, that kind of tells you if they're going to be in this category or if maybe they're a little bit closer to this one.
Right. And I don't even know if most people have those categories because, like I said, before that, I didn't even realize that I needed. Well, I personally knew that based on the conversations that I was having with people, that I knew whether I could get deep with them or it was just surface type stuff. Like we just club buddies, and that's all we did was just hang out in the club and whatnot. But also during the week, if it was, if I needed to go to the hospital or something like that, then there's certain other people I would call. But it's interesting because we really don't look at people that way. Because we want everyone just to fit in this complete 360 circle of our life. And I watch a lot of people uh, communicate with their girlfriends or friends, and they're like, all they're doing is just co-signing everything. They're not really giving no real input, no sense of opinions or guidance or nothing whatsoever. Just
Right.
going along with the nonsense and co-signing the madness. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so it's
Yeah.
interesting though, but I think it's very important that we do see people for who they are and putting them in appropriate categories, and not even only for a protective state, just for self awareness of knowing who's in your midst. You know, like literally knowing who, if you're in safe grounds and or unfamiliar grounds, that you gotta be quiet and just analyze people and just like, you know what, you're a bullshit cheddar. You tell everybody your business. I know to tell you my business because you're gonna squeal it out next week.
Right.
So
Right. And there's different levels to closeness too. Like we have best friends, right? Like my best friends know more about me than my coworkers. Like maybe my coworkers are cool too. Like we go out after work or whatever. Like we hang out, we spend all day together at work. But there's just different levels to it. I wouldn't say that they're bad people or like I don't want to tell them anything, but they're not gonna know the deep details in the same way, and that doesn't make it a bad thing. It's just different levels to intimacy, different categories in that way. So not necessarily thinking about either you're my friend or you're not, because it's not black and white. Life is not black and white. There's very few things that are black and white.
right, murky
Okay.
gray.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's not any gray, but I was thinking, you know, when in the span of that, a lot of people don't think that, again, when you say intimacy, you only think man, woman, right? Or whatever your preference is. But when it comes to like your best friends or close friends, you don't see that there's intimacy there. Because right, my best friend knows everything about me, my deepest, darkest secrets. We cry together, we laugh together. I mean, we fight, holler, scream, all of that, right? So I guess that will go to the different levels or different type of intimacy. But when it comes to uh, a man woman relationship, right? If you're well, if you're in a relationship, can you sustain a relationship without intimacy? Now I'm not talking about sex because you can have sex, but that's not being intimate on so many. So that's more of a sexual relationship. But if there's no real intimacy in that relationship, can
Mm-hmm.
can that relationship be sustained
I
without?
mean, it depends on the person. So I'm not going to say no because everybody's different. Some people get married for money. Some people get married because they need somebody health insurance. Like there's different motivations for things and it works for them. So I'm not going to say no, but if you want something that's deep and to really truly feel connected to a person, that doesn't happen without some intimacy. That doesn't happen without vulnerability. Like there's some level that you have to be vulnerable. And yes, it puts you at risk, but it also opens the door for you to like truly feel connected to a person, to truly kind of transcend what we usually do. Like we just do the small talk, all that. That's easy. All of that's easy. But if you want like a long lasting relationship, you kind of have to reveal different levels of intimacy over time. And you have to be having these conversations. So like I said, sharing details and secrets. Like me and my husband, we have very open communication, but there's things like he met me at 22. Anything that happened before 22, he does not know. And I lived a whole life before him. So there's always things that I can tell him that he does not know. And that just opens up opportunity for him to share things about himself, or we could share things that we maybe wish that we could have experienced, different things. And it kind of takes it to a deeper level than just kind of, okay, I know you now, but there's things that maybe I hadn't experienced.
Right, right. So, and I don't know if we touched on this the last time we talked about intimacy, but how does that play into like the love languages? Is that all because like for me, it's hard for me to become emotionally attached to or become emotional emotional emotionally attached to people on some levels simply because of things that I've experienced.
Mm.
So what would cause, well, I know what causes me, right? But what would cause somebody to not become emotionally intimate, or causes a lack of emotional intimacy?
Typically is past experiences. So whether that's childhood, like your parents, the way that they interacted with you, or didn't interact with you, like if you were missing something, then the way that we come to know the world is through our experiences. So like once we go to school, that's when we start learning like what they teach you. But
Right.
before that, anything that you learned it because you saw it, you heard it, somebody around you told you about it. Like that's how we learn. So if you've had bad experiences in childhood, that's something that's very pervasive because as children, that's when we suck up all the information. So we may not understand it, but we give it meaning along our growth, right? So we notice that we've seen this when we were younger, and now I'm going to give it meaning because now that I'm old enough to understand, like now I can say, oh, well, maybe they didn't care about me, or maybe they did this because they were hurting, or maybe they've been through this and this is just kind of a cycle. So we start to give it meaning, but usually it comes from childhood. And if not from childhood, it's past relationships.
Right.
So if I had a similar characteristic in a past partner, that I'm automatically more on edge. I'm paying more attention to it because I know what happened last time when I was in a situation like this. So everything is based on what we've experienced, what we were told, what we saw, or what happened to us personally. So that's typically why. But I do think it connects to the love languages for sure and how we give and receive love, and if we are even comfortable with giving or receiving love in the first place.
Okay. You know, but do you know what the five love languages are?
The
Repeat
five
that
love
again.
languages.
The five love languages. Do you know what they are? Because I only know two of them.
Yeah, so there's words of affirmation, and that's my that's my number one. There's giving gifts, acts of service, there's quality time, and then there's physical touch.
Okay. Okay.
And what if you're deprived in all of the above?
That can be difficult for sure. I think that sometimes a lot of people they don't know what their love language is, or they don't know what their partner's love language is, and so there's a bunch of free quizzes. If you just like Google it, there's going to be a million that pop up, and you can take like a quick quiz if you don't know what yours is, just to identify it. And of course, like if I could, I want them all the time, like of course. But there's always going to be one or two that are more weighted than the rest. So like you can do something, you can give me a gift and thank you. Like I appreciate it. This is cute. Like I'm gonna take it. But if you were to like write me a poem, I would appreciate that more.
Mm.
So everyone has something like that. Like there's something that feels a little bit more important. And so that is kind of what you want to know so that you can express that to any partners, but then also knowing how you show love. So
Mm.
sometimes that's different than the way that you want to receive it. So I want you to tell me nice things. I want you to spend time with me. Like that's what I love. But that might not be how I show love. Maybe I show love by buying you stuff, or maybe I show love by touching you. And that's different. And if my partner doesn't know that this is what I'm trying to do, or maybe they don't register it in the same way, then they would have no idea and they would feel like maybe I don't care or that they're not getting what they want.
Right. That makes sense. That makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense because we can't always expect or think that our partners are going to reciprocate the way we show love, which makes a big difference, right? Like
Right.
you're somebody that's um like you said, like you want to get gifts all the time, and then somebody else just feels like, well, I just need you to spend time with me. I don't care where we at, what we do, as long as we're together. And they might not want to always be with you. They might be like, look, I can bought you this, I can bought you that. So I
Right.
don't need to spend that time. But I guess to each his own, and everything means something different to everybody. If
Mhm.
if you're in a relationship, how could you tell if it's lacking that intimacy? Are there any signs to, oh, like, okay, are there any signs to say, okay, I'm in this relationship, but this person seems to be closed off.
Right.
They're, it's like they have a wall up. They say they love me, we spend time together, we do things, but there's still something missing because we're not connecting. We don't have that closeness. Are there any what signs are there for someone to have to look out to say, okay, this person is having problems building this intimacy, or
Mhm.
being able to show the intimacy? Are there any signs?
Yeah, I think that there are, like, it shows up differently for different people, but some very common ones are not spending that time together as much. Or if you are spending time together, it's more like a parallel life. So like, especially when you live together, this is very common in relationships. It's like we are together because we live in the same space together. We're gonna be around each other, but we're not really together. So like you're sitting over there, I'm sitting over here, you laying in the bed, you on your side, I'm on my side. You in the kitchen, you getting something to drink, I'm sitting at the table, but we're not really connecting. We're just around each other. So we're living
Right.
parallel lives. We're here, but we're not sharing anything. We're not talking as much. Maybe we're not doing anything together as much anymore, which is another way to build intimacy. You have to do things together, shared activities, shared experiences. If you think about it, just in the whole scheme of things, if you've been to school or if you had a job, they always have these team building days. And what they gonna make you do? They make you go do a bunch of activities, or you trust fall. You got to lift this person, make this person walk around here. It's to build trust and to build closeness so that you work better together. So the more that you do things together, like psychologically, this is proven to help you feel closer to these people, make you work better. So just living together, just being around each other is not necessarily enough unless that's the type of relationship you want, and that's fine. but but if that's not what you're looking for, then you actually have to be connecting in some type of way.
Yeah, I was in a relationship once a long, long time ago, and it used to burn my soul that my well, I'm gonna call it a situationship now, because back then I thought it was a relationship, but it was a situation. But it was sleep with his back to me, and that burned my soul. It was like, but I never knew how to say, well, why did you sleep? He would
Mm,
get in the bed and would just turn his back, and
mm,
that whole thing would just it makes you feel a certain way. It really messes with your psyche to a certain extent, right?
mhm,
But I was like, wow. So, I went through that for a minute and I realized, this ain't
mhm,
not, we're not connecting. There's something going on. And I didn't know what it was. I don't think he knew what it was. I don't know if I was the issue or he was the issue. All I
mhm.
knew, it was time to just make a move, do something, get up out of that, because it wasn't fulfilling and it wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, so when you have so every because everyone has their own love language, even if they don't know how to identify with it. There's a language that they speak and receive. Um, so let's say if you're a person that's knowledgeable of love language and your partner isn't knowledgeable of it, and they're not even aware that they're transmitting I guess a negative love a language like the back turning thing, or
Mm,
two people that have a different language. One is content with just being around their partner. The other one is super affectionate, and they want to be touchy feely all the time, and that's their confirmation of love and affection. And how do you make those two different worlds together? When everybody's setting their own ways, one person just wants to be touched, and they won't even they don't no, all this other stuff. No, just touch me, and I get it.
mhm.
But no, I'm just blow me a kiss. What?
Okay.
Like, so how do you make those two different worlds work together when you have some kind of chemistry, but those two differences really are very different?
Right. So I think part of it is having an open mind, obviously. So knowing and understanding that as much as like we can have in common and I can really care about you, you're not me. So you're not gonna receive things in the same way that I receive it. You're not gonna do things in the same way that I would. And this is something that I had to like me and my husband, we had to like really come to like understand because we do have different love languages. And so he would feel like, okay, I'm showing you so much love. I'm like, I touch you all the time. I'm doing this all the time. And it's like, yo, but you need to also do these things for me because you feel like you're exhausting yourself, but you're not doing it in a way that I can receive it. And vice versa, maybe, right? So I have to be open to not only doing it the way that I would want to do it, but I also have to be open to doing it the way that you're going to actually receive it. So it's kind of combining the two, and that's something that he's been learning to do. So he's not very expressive, and I think that a lot of men are not necessarily naturally expressive, right? And so he's had to start to learn to be a little bit more expressive since my love language is words of affirmation. So he'll still touch me since that's his love language, but he'll also make sure that while he's doing that, he's also doing mine. So saying something really sweet or so kind of combining them so it doesn't feel like you're losing yourself and what's important to you, but that you're also letting your partner know like, hey, this is important to me, like this is something that I really actually need. And I don't think that I can be satisfied if I don't get it. So what is a way that we can kind of reach a middle ground, that gray area in the middle?
It makes sense. Makes a
It
lot
does.
of sense.
What's interesting is because, like, let's say for instance, like your dynamics with your marriage. So in a marriage, there is a union. So you guys are supposed to be working together. So in relationships, I see more of people operating from an independent standpoint of this is who I am, accept me as I am, or you don't accept me at all, and not wanting to be changed by the other partner because there is no commitment there besides the connection that you have with one another. There's no marriage, no ring, or nothing like that. Until until you wife it, you ain't got no control over nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Unless she's really open minded about her partner. But I would say for the majority of people are kind of set in their ways and they think they know who they are, who they want to be, and don't want to be changed. So it's how do you break through a barrier of someone that may not know themselves as well as you do, um, and it starts turning into a frustrating situation because it seems like you're just trying to change them and they don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be changed. You know what I mean? But you're just trying to open a new world of, hey, I know you might have not have experienced this before, but this is pretty cool, and and then
Right.
what do you do with those situations?
I think a part of it is kind of like breaking down some of the thought processes that we have. So a lot of times when like especially I can say for women especially like if you ask them okay so like how would you describe yourself? So a lot of the times the things that they say are not actually like who you are as a person. They're things that you do. Like I'm a good mom. I am independent. Like I pay bills. Like okay, but that's not who you are as an individual. That's you being a good friend. You're a good mom. You're a good
Hmm.
daughter. You're a caring person to other people. But who are you as a person? I feel like a lot of times we are thinking or feeling like this is me and it's not me. It's just what I do. It's how I behave. And you can change any behavior, like you can. Is whether or not you want to is another thing.
Right.
But you can like your personality is your personality, but you can change any behavior. Like if you bite your nails and you stop, you change that behavior. If you constantly walk and you start on your left foot, you can change that and start on your right foot. Like any
Hmm.
behavior you do you can change. So just understanding what is actually your personality and then what is how you've been acting in the world. And just because you change how you act in the world, it doesn't change who you are as a person.
Very well said.
Very
Very
well.
well said. That's a very amazing point, and I totally agree. But I don't think people, and that's the interesting I think point that you do make is that people are operating out of what they do versus who they are. and they're calling themselves what they do versus who they are, and they don't even know who they are because they're too busy doing what they do
Mhm.
to take the time to know who they are. And when
Mhm.
they do that, they might not like what they see, so they'll go back to who they what they
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So it's but that's a very thought provoking concept to really marinate on because especially for men, we're doers. You know what I mean? A lot of our characteristics is based on us doing something. We're very hands on, and we want to. Well, how can I fix this? There's a problem. How? And this is, tell me what I need to do. We always want to do something, and sometimes the doing is in the not doing. Um, as I've learned.
Mhm.
But yeah. So the floor is yours, Passion, because I'm gonna think about that one for a minute.
what you just said, the doing is in the not doing and all that other good stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, because she made
Yeah,
some really good point.
yeah,
Mhm.
of course. D- Is it possible that a lack of intimacy can cause stress to somebody, anxiety? Um, how would that relate to a person's mental health? Maybe is what I.
Right. Yeah, yeah, it definitely can. And I think sometimes it's also kind of a cycle because sometimes people lack intimacy because they're stressed. Maybe I'm really busy at work, so when I come home, I don't want to do nothing for nobody. I don't want to talk. I don't want to cuddle. I don't want to do any of that because I'm overwhelmed already. Or maybe I'm already anxious or I'm already depressed. And now, like, I don't have the intimacy and so now I'm more anxious because you're upset because we're not being intimate. So it can be a little bit of a cycle, but also, even if your lack of intimacy has nothing to do with you already being stressed or you already being anxious, it definitely can increase that because sometimes when we find out that there's a lack of intimacy, it's usually presented in a way like, oh, why you don't do this? Or I remember we used to be able to do this and so it feels like a pressure, like, oh my gosh, like now I have to figure this out right now because you're expecting this. And I feel like I have to act right now. And so that just causes anxiety. Honestly, it can stress you out because if you feel like, okay, I have to live up to this certain expectation, some people, they fold under that sort of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
People, they like it because that makes them strive harder. But for a lot of people, that definitely can kind of have a negative impact on you. And then when you're not in a good mood, you don't want to be lovey-dovey. You just don't. That's not how we function. Even though when you're close to someone, whether it's physical touch or if you're like emotionally intimate, that releases the happy hormones. It makes you feel better. We just don't feel like it though.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And I was about to say that happy hormone that gets released when you're close to some because having a healthy relationship with the with a good level of intimacy actually has a lot of health benefits with it, right? Like um you said the good hormones, the laughing and it releases all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a people don't understand. I don't think people truly understand how intimacy plays into not just a relationship, but with you physically, your
Mm-hmm.
physical well-being and your mental well-being, because it's all a connection. It's,
Right.
yeah. So I just, was thinking about how, like, if somebody has been hurt and they're guarded, so because they're guarded, they got this wall up and they can't you can't become intimate, and then the person that's not understanding why they can't get through or what's going on, it could really be a draining experience for somebody. And just,
Mm-hmm.
knowing the signs and knowing what you can do to kind of help somebody that may be intimidated or scared to become intimate it can help them to know what can I do to make this person know they can trust me. You're
Mhm.
safe with me. I'm not gonna hurt you, right? You have,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to intimacy, like first and foremost, of course, like any intimacy that you're able to build with another person, you have to have that intimacy with self. So we talked a little bit about some people don't really know who they are,
mhm,
and so it can be hard to show up for someone else to the full capacity if you don't even know who you are in the first place. You don't know what you need or what you want or how you show things or why you show things, then it can be very, very difficult to reach the deep level of intimacy with another person. So, always starting with self. Of course, we can do things to make somebody feel comfortable, right? So, like I said before, like if you share something about yourself, that creates an environment where they feel like maybe I can share something too. Like if I'm telling you something deep about me, obviously I feel like this relationship is there's a level of trust at least that I feel like you're not going to take advantage of that. And
right,
so if I can do that, then I hope that you can see that this is a safe space so that you can reciprocate. And then from there, we can just kind of build on it. So it's that with trust, you have to be a trustworthy person in order to be able to trust other people. So a lot of times people they don't trust themselves and what will happen more so than them not trusting other people. It's just kind of a projection of the fact that I don't trust how I'm gonna act in this situation, or I don't trust like if I had these circumstances, I would cheat or I would do this, I would lie, I would steal. So they feel like other people obviously feel that way too, because if I would do it, I know y'all would do it. And that's not necessarily true. And so it's really knowing and getting to know yourself, being honest with yourself, and if there's things that you need to change or adjust. Like I said, we can always change behaviors. Behavior is not permanent ever. You can change it if you want to. Sometimes it does take help, but you can definitely change it. You don't have to accept that as being your forever thing. And then choosing people who can model for you. So, like, don't go and find somebody just to co-sign, like Abel mentioned earlier. Don't find somebody just going to co-sign whatever. Like, oh, I would cheat, so you know they all cheating. Or if I was in this situation, this is how I would act, and they're gonna just co-sign it. You need people that will challenge you and to really kind of show you, like, hey, that's not necessarily a fact. Because sometimes we feel like our feelings are facts and they're not.
right, right, right. So, are there any key factors in building that you can tell our listeners? Um, like, are there like key factors to lead to building, like you mentioned, trust and maybe communication? Are there any other ones?
Yeah, so definitely making sure that you're taking time to have the conversations, asking questions. Sometimes when it comes to communication and learning how to communicate, we have to over communicate, and you might feel real silly or real dumb in the beginning when you're doing it, but not just because we assume that somebody understands why we're doing something.
Right.
So, like, oh, I'm holding your hand because I like you. Like, or I like to hold hands because it makes me feel safe, or like just giving context to what you're doing so that the other person can understand, oh, it's coming from this, not because maybe holding hands, I feel like if you grab my hand anytime we walking in public, maybe you're just trying to claim me. And now I feel like you just don't want nobody else to look at me. And that's
Mhm.
controlling. Whereas you're holding my hand because you love me. You just want to feel close to me. So I need to know that because otherwise I'm just going to go on my past experiences. So over communicate, especially in the beginning. Over time, obviously, you come to learn somebody and you can kind of figure it out. But we don't know that in the beginning. I don't know why you're doing that. So explain it. Make sure that you're being a person of your word. So if I'm telling you, like, I'm not going to hurt you, like, I need to know that I'm not going to hurt you. And if I don't know that I'm not going to hurt you, I'm not going to say that. Maybe I'll say it a different way. Like, I don't have intentions of doing wrong. I don't have any, like, at this point, I can't see that. rather than I will never hurt you. Because then as soon as you do, because you will, like my husband said some things to me that hurt my feelings, that hurt. Like he said he would never hurt me. Now I know you're a liar, right? So making sure you're careful with the words that you use and make sure that you're sticking to those words that you use, understanding boundaries and respecting boundaries when they're telling you they're not okay with something, don't force it. Obviously, if you want context to better understand it, have a conversation, but just being very open and not taking things as super personal. But all of those things help you to create an environment where like, okay, I could probably trust you. Like you're very careful with what you say, very careful with the things that you do. You explain to me why you're doing them. I don't see why I shouldn't trust you.
Right, right. I got it. I got it. So, uh, a person that put expectations on themselves, they can cause because they feel like maybe they want to show a certain level of intimacy or feel as if they have to, overcompensate maybe for something that can they can put they can cause their undue stress and anxiety on themselves if they have their own expectations set.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Sometimes the expectation doesn't come from the other person. Probably more often it comes from ourselves. Um, but we kind of project that. We feel like they have to have that expectation. Like if I don't live up to this, then they can't feel this way. They can't do this, which we kind of have to call into question. I always, whenever clients tell me things that I know is just like it's a thought, you believe it, you think it's a fact, but let's think of some other possibilities. What are some other explanations for this? Because there's no way that that's the only one. There's no
Right,
way.
right, right, right. It's just I'm amazed and I'm shocked at the different levels in what intimacy really entails because, before a couple of weeks ago, I was one of the ones that really thought that, intimacy was really um, mo- more of a sexual type thing. Of course, you have the emotional piece to it, but I'm just like everybody else. A lot of people think, good sex, this, that, the third week, but that's not it.
Mhm.
That's the least of it. Well, at
Well,
least
I don't know about the least of it.
of it. You
But no, no. Actually, you bring up a good point, right? Because for women, sex isn't everything. For men, it almost is everything, and
right,
everything else around that is a complement to the sex life that we build and have with one another. And I think that's the struggle that men and women have with one another a lot in our communication. Is that men are very physical, we're very doers, touches, feelers, or whatever, and that might not be enough for a woman where she needs that verbal affirmation. I love you. Yeah, but we try to get to you in the moment, and he's just removing himself from the verbal entanglements because women are thinkers. You guys are talkers. You are feelers. So women have a lot of elements going on that men probably don't get involved in. We move from we're kind of very strategic with a lot of things. A lot of people call us simple, and I consider us to be very simple, very straightforward. But then we can be very complex in the simplicity things by missing something. But aside from all that, I've been over the last 2 weeks, right? Since you came on the show, I've been thinking about you and your husband, right? Because you were transparent and share with us some things that you experienced, and thank you for that again. And it made me really really curious to how do you get where you are right now? Because I think you are very well balanced, well rounded, very well articulated, self aware individual that you don't come across every day. So when you're dealing with traumas and things of that nature, and that's a lot just to unpack in your own life, let alone being able to help anybody else.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And you're really, really good. Like I've been listening. I listen very intently. So I listen to the key words that you're saying, and the skills and things that you're presenting on this show and throughout your life. It makes me wonder, how did you get where you are, considering your situation?
Right, right. I think it is a combination of a lot of things. So, one, I think that I've always been a little bit more introspective as a person. Like, I've just always wanted, like, try to figure out who I am, like, why I do things. I'm always intrigued by why other people do things. And, like, I try to understand because, like, over my life, like, you start to realize, like, you know, how they say when you get older, you start to look at the things that your parents did in a different way because now you're an adult. And like I think like, oh, my mom had me when she was 23. If I had a child when I was 23, the things that I don't think I would be the best mother in the world. And not to
Right,
say my mother is not, she was, but just understanding that the things I knew at 23 was not as much as I thought I knew at 23. So I always try to have that thought frame. So like, why do people do the things that they do? Like, what is the motivation behind this? How did this happen? I've always kind of been like that. But then
okay,
also, like obviously when I decided that I wanted to be a therapist, like I started taking like psychology classes in high school, and I just kind of learned more like how the mind works, things that motivate people to do things, and like how we can basically we create our reality. Like we
right,
create our behaviors and how we can actually do that. So I've always kind of had that with my trauma. Like obviously, like it's easy to say these things or to know these things intellectually, but that really forced me to actually have to figure it out because like damn, I know why I'm doing these things, I know what's going on, I know what happened, but how to actually do the work that I need to do. And it took a very long time, I'm not even gonna lie, it took like 10 years for me to really feel like I'm in a place where I feel like I have control. I feel like I have a greater understanding of myself, but also others. My husband and I, we had a lot of issues. It was
right,
not an easy journey. Like I said, we started out as friends with benefits. Then we were like, oh, but I kind of like you, and I'm like, we back and forth over the years, and we're both very stubborn people. I think we've grown out of it now that we're older, but like you're not gonna tell me what to do. Like you're not gonna like I don't feel that way. I don't agree. And so it was a lot of really like challenging myself to live the way that I believe that I am as a person. So not like the behavior thing. Like I'm doing things that I don't feel are me. Like I think that I'm a very kind person. I think I'm a very understanding person. I think that I'm very loving. And so if I'm over here cussing you out, I'm over here not letting you touch me. I'm over here not living that. Like, how
right.
can I say that I am? Like, how do I know that I am if that's not what I'm doing? And so it took a long time, but it took a
Okay.
lot of work. I got some help along the way, but it's not easy. It's not, and that's why I always say too. Like, if you need help, that's another way that you can. Like, if you hear these things I say, you can build intimacy. You absolutely can. But sometimes you need help, and that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're incapable. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean anything bad. It just means you're gonna get there faster. You got somebody who's been there, someone who has the education, the experience to help you. So I would say definitely get help, and whether that's me because I'm happy to help or somebody else, it's okay to get help.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yes,
I
it is. And healing, and to your point about taking a long time, healing is a lifelong journey. It's something that does not happen overnight, and because you have those wounds and those scars, the moment something comes along and trigger you, you can end up right back to a space. It could be momentarily, but you get triggered and you take you somewhere. So you're constantly um, having to re address the scar. It's kind of
Mm,
like a trigger. will cut it open or it'll start to make it bleed again. So healing is a lifelong journey, and you do have to be strong, and you do have to begin to have a sense of self and who you are, and you have to understand that, like you said, you need help. You
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to get help. You have to be able to admit, I still have a lot more work to do. It gets better, it gets easier, but again, the least something comes along, and if it triggers you, you can end up right back where you used to be.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
there's always that sensitivity. And I think about it like my husband, he has a scar on his arm. I think he was like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 when he got it. But he does not like for me to touch it because he says it's like a sensitive place. And it's
hmm
like literally the same thing. Like we think we can understand it when it's a physical thing, right? It's so easy, like, oh, if you broke your toe and your toe is just a little crooked now, like you understand that. But it's the same thing when it's an emotional or psychological issue that you've experienced. You still have that sensitivity. It's still going to be there. It's just that you know how to work around it a little bit better. You know what things bother it or what could potentially bother it. So you're just prepared to handle it in a different way. And it's like you said, it's lifelong. The things that I know about myself today, I didn't necessarily know 10 years ago, and 10 more years from now, I might feel differently. So it's something that you have to continue to do. And that's why with my course, it's something that you get for like it's a 6 month thing if you do it the way that I intend for you to do it. But
right.
you have it forever. Like if you do it this year and then you pull it back out and you do it next year, you may very well have different answers for some of the activities. And that's okay. Like we change, we grow. That happens all the time.
Yeah. I strive to grow and evolve every day to become a better person. Did you have to, how did you deal with the anger? I'm just curious.
Um,
I'm
I
sorry.
I was a very angry. I feel like I think I'm naturally inclined to be angry. Like I'm from the East Coast, like my parents, I feel like they was a little aggressive, they was a little angry. So I grew up, I used to fight, but then girls start slashing people faces, and I was like,
Oh my, yeah.
Right.
I was
Too
like, I'm
old for that.
gonna do my best to calm myself down. But from there, like I would still like punch walls and like I was very angry. Like I would like really spaz out, hurt people's feelings. Like not necessarily like a mean girl, but if I feel like you're challenging me or you're trying to hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you. And that took me like really analyzing myself because like I said, I feel like I'm a very kind person. Like I'm very understanding. I think I'm very smart. Like I have a lot to offer. I want to help people. I want to uplift people. And if I'm out here being angry, spazzing on people, yelling at people, punching walls, that doesn't align with who I say I am. Like
Right.
I can't consciously go out in the world and be like, oh, I'm so nice, I'm so sweet. I'm over here punching walls and cussing people out. Like it doesn't make sense. And so I really had to like call myself out the same way I would call somebody else out. I was like, yo, you can't do that. You can't do that and honestly think that you're being a great person.
Mhm.
So that's part of it. And then having people that hold you accountable. So like instead of finding those co-signer friends, we all have them.
Mhm.
Every so often you want somebody that's going to hype you up and be like, yeah, forget him. Yeah, no, go slash the tires. But we need people who are going to tell us no. Like we are not doing that. We're better than this. Like there's
Right.
other ways to handle this. We need to find those people and have those people who challenge us. And that's part of the reason why I ended up marrying my husband because he's like, yeah, nah, you're not doing that.
So he was the voice of reason for you, and that's interesting that you made the versus rebelling against the a voice of reason, because a lot of people go the opposite direction because they want that cozy feeling of, oh, I ain't gotta change and people accept me the way I am, and even if I'm messed up I'm okay because everybody loves me, you
I know
know.
what I think that like I had that before and like I've had like nice boyfriends. Like I had a couple boyfriends before. Like they were like genuinely nice guys. But I think that part of it was they were just happy to be with me. So at the end of the day, like I can kind of act however I wanted to. And it was okay. Not that I was like terrorizing people, but like if I told you to leave me alone or you can't do this, you're gonna listen because you're just happy to be here. And
Right.
he wasn't just happy to be here. He was happy to be here, but also I'm not dealing with that. Like
Right.
this is not gonna be okay. And like I could have potentially married my last boyfriend. I could have potentially had an okay life, but like the level of intimacy I feel with my husband is so much more because he does challenge me. He does question me. He doesn't just go along with it.
And that's a beautiful thing. So would it ever? There's an echo. I don't know. There's an echo somewhere. Yeah. So, um, and I'm gonna leave you alone after this because I'm sorry. It's all in your business. Well, I'm asking for a friend. um, was there ever a time like when you were going through and maybe he triggered you or you acted out because you felt the way that he felt like, okay, this is the real you and not the nice you? Because you like you say you like you can't go out and say I'm nice, this, that, and the other, and then be cussing and screaming and cussing and wanting to fight. So
Mhm.
because sometimes people don't understand that there's two sides to every coin, right? Your genuine self could be nice and you know nice, cool, collective, and calm, but because of whatever has maybe altered you in some way, that because of that situation, the anger that had built up and the resentment may cause you to act out. And
Mhm.
when that comes, that's not your genuine self, but people will be like, oh, that's who you really are, right?
Mhm.
So how did you ever come to that point in life where he felt like, okay, this is real. This is the real you, the one that's cussing and screaming and hollering, and not the sweetheart with you, not the sweetheart that I love. Is this monster over here? So how
I
did?
think maybe a little bit like he would kind of see because I feel like everyone who sees me or meets me, he's like, they always think you're so nice. You're just so sweet. And I was like, because I am, obviously. But he also experiences a different side of me that other people don't. And that's a part of intimacy too. Is like
Mhm.
he sees me when I'm happy. He sees me when I'm mad. He sees me when I'm sad. So I think that as we kind of progressed in the relationship, and like I said, we were both very stubborn, young, trying to live our lives. Like I said, I could pretty much do whatever I wanted, like as far as running, wearing the pants in my previous relationships. And
Mm,
he did the same. Like those girls was just happy to be there. They didn't care what he did or how he was acting to them. He could not say anything nice to them ever in life and they would probably be okay. Like because he's just there. Like they know they can call him. He can play the game all day in their face and they're just happy that he's around. So I think that we both had that to certain extents. And so when we came together, it's like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not just happy to be here, and he's not just happy to be here. So he saw that. I think part of it was like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. And like early on, I always said, I would never date you. And he said the same thing. Like, he was like, I would never date a girl like you. And I mean, here we are now. So obviously that's not necessarily true. But in that period, like with the information that you have at the time, based on like past experiences, like it was uncomfortable. So I
mhm,
don't think that he necessarily thought I was a bad person, just like, I don't want to deal with that.
mm. Okay. Okay. I get it. I got you. So we have a question. Somebody put in the comments. It says, Miss Shamari, I believe you mentioned something about better orgasms. Is there more detail on that?
Yes, I did. So, my course, Better Sex Guide to Confidence, Satisfaction, and Orgasms Without Faking, if you are interested in getting that, and the course definitely will outline it. I have a YouTube channel. I'm going to be releasing like little clips, little videos that answer some of those questions. But when it comes to orgasms, like generally speaking, like women, we usually need more stimulation, and whether that's physical stimulation or mental stimulation, we need a buildup. We need clitoral stimulation, usually vaginal stimulation. Most women does not do it. But then also just being present. And I think that a lot of women sometimes we are not present. So whether that's because of trauma, because we're worried about what our body looks like, is he looking at this stretch mark? Is he looking at this roll? All of those things, worrying about whether or not we're gonna be satisfied, if we're gonna have an orgasm, all of those worries make it harder for it to happen. So the course definitely addresses that and finding what pleasure you like, but it also works on kind of the mindset, the confidence, and like the communication, so that you can set up a situation where you're more likely to get an orgasm because you know yourself, you know your body, you know how to express those things to someone, and you know where your limitations are.
Okay, that's it. That's insightful. It's really insightful. Yes, you're just gonna have to take the course.
Yeah, it's 50% off right now, and I have a coupon code to get an additional $50 off if you're interested in it. Definitely, I think that the 50% off, I'm gonna change that maybe like after Mother's Day. So, like, if you're a mom or if you have mothers in your life that you think need to experience their own pleasure, then you can definitely get that before Mother's Day. Because I'm going to take the 50% off of that. I'm going to go back to full price.
So, do you want to give your information again, real quick, for those that may have missed it, where they can maybe you could put the links up on us. You can hold them up, or you can tell us what they are.
Let me. Can I put them in the chat and then you guys can
Yeah.
share it?
Yes,
Okay.
most definitely.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome topic because there's a lot of people dissatisfied in their sexual life, and it's a problem. You know,
Right.
people are running around the street angry and mad and frustrated and dissatisfied and driving with road rage and taking it out on people that have nothing to do with nothing. And all you got to do is have a conversation and a little bit better intimacy with your partner, or get you a partner.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it definitely impacts how you act in the world. Like your irritability, it impacts your health. You are like it boosts your immune system, it boosts your mood, it betters your relationships, like all of those things. So definitely, if you're not happy with what's going on, also not feeling like you have to do it if you're not enjoying it, like speak up, say something like that really that's why it's 50% off DJ Envy and his wife, because we're not gonna do that. Mm-mm. We're
Okay,
not doing
I'm trying to figure out how to share it. I have it. I just need to figure out. Let me see if I can do it like this. Oh, there it is. All right.
You know
See,
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Mr. Producer, you got it. Yeah. So that's her information at the bottom, where you can find out about her course, Better Sex Guide to Confidence, Satisfactions, and Orgasms Without Faking It.
Mhm.
Yes.
And we're gonna post a link all over our socials, and there's gonna be a whole transformation going on. Our presence is about to change. We're about to get our website up and popping soon, so that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Shamari, you are the best. Like
Thank
literally, like
Yes.
you.
So
I like.
I want to make sure because thank you again.
Of
It's
course.
awesome.
Yeah.
And today, well, this month was National Poetry Month, and I feel like such a bad person because that's my thing. And I
Mm.
don't think I celebrated it properly. But so I'm gonna close this out tonight after the we we pay our bill. We hear from our sponsors. So I'm gonna close us out with a nice little poem. Okay, well I did that the other day. It was oh okay. So I'm gonna read this comment. I'm it's said I did that the other day and I was wrong for that, and this podcast really helps me out. Oh,
Mm.
okay. Well, thank you. Yes, we're glad we could.
Gotta let her doggy. All
Yes.
right, so let's have a word from our sponsor before we go out.
Welcome to Empire Marketing, your one-stop shop for all your online business needs. To the right of me are some of the services we've been providing for the last 20 years. Are you in need for affordable business solutions? Looking to increase your online presence and social awareness? Or maybe want help with driving tons of organic traffic to your website's products and/or services? Then contact our expert team to learn about our various services created to meet your exact needs. Our graphics and marketing professionals have tons of experience in creating eye-catching logos and branding materials. In addition, we create professional interactive ebooks and ebook covers for Amazon or self-publishing. Have you ever thought about creating your own online coaching or podcast services, but don't know where to begin? Are you a physical trainer? Or a certified coach or therapist? Or maybe you're interested in becoming one? Well, we provide you with quick and affordable solutions to do just that. Our team can build you a solid brand, and generate a reoccurring subscriber-based membership website for you and your company that's tailored to your specific practice and/or profession in less than a week. Now you can have your very own professional online video e-learning platform, providing in-depth instructions, tutorials, trainings and online lessons in any profession or niche of your choice, creating you an endless stream of passive, residual income while you sleep. We'll even show you how to attract new high-paying, high-ticket-based clients for your business, without breaking the bank in ad dollars. We specialize in creating attention-grabbing promo materials and video presentations that captivate your audience and viewers, while utilizing cutting-edge technology for marketing and targeting new interested leads, and converting those leads and prospects into paid customers and clientele. Let us prove our devotion to you as we promise to maintain the highest level of quality and commitment. Your satisfaction is our main concern. Contact us now, and let us show you all of the affordable and amazing options we have available for growing your business. You may speak with a live agent by calling us at 717-722-5626. For a complete list of our amazing and affordable services, visit us online at www.empiremarketing.xyz. Let us launch your ideas into empires.
All right. Thank you for our sponsors. Ah, hold on a second. I think you are muted. There you go.
Okay, so thank you to our sponsors. Thank you very much, Shamari. Thank you again. We're gonna have to have you back again. Um, I, in honor of National Poetry Month. I'm gonna close us out, but I do want to say that I hope you know people join us next month as we usher in the month of May, and May is National Mental Health Month, and that is a subject that is very dear and close to my heart as I have family members that suffer from mental health issues. So we will be focusing our shows the whole month of May around mental health. So just wanted to put that out there. So the title of this poem is called "Missing You." I knew you, my love, I would miss, and I never imagined I'd feel like this, but it's as if a piece of me has died. See, all the tears I cry can't bring it back to life, and I struggle every day to keep from slipping away, but I'm beginning to feel lifeless even as I'm writing this. See, everything is dark and cloudy, and my light from within is now dim. See, my extended forecast is cold and hazy with a 99.5% chance I'll never stop loving your ass, but I knew you, my love, I would miss. I just never imagined anything like this.
Nice, nice. I like it. I like it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Click it up, click it up.
So that was a little something, something. I have my book my debut book that will be released next month. It's called Pieces of Me, and it's a collection of poetry. So be on the lookout for that.
Mm.
Yes. So
Looking forward to that one.
huh?
So looking
What you
forward to pieces of me.
It's coming. It's coming. It's a long time coming, but it's coming. But I want to thank you again for being here with us, and I really appreciate it. Again, you've been so helpful. I've learned a lot. Our listeners have learned a lot. So,
Thank
um,
you.
yes, thank you so much. And you have children?
No, not yet.
Okay, all right. So I was going to say Happy Mother's Day, but
Well, yeah,
yeah,
happy Mother's Day to you.
you and you take care, and I will be talking to you soon. Mr.
Okay.
Scott, you want to get us up out of here?
Maybe, maybe not. No, Shamari, thank you so much for an awesome everything, and we are definitely blessed by your intelligence, your grace, your the time that it took you to get to where you are, and it is definitely not overlooked. It is not um I
Mm,
appreciate it because being able to pull yourself out of the quote unquote the gutter with a lot of those things and emotions and just the baggage, just aside from offenses and being able to make yourself a well-rounded individual is not an easy process without offenses against you. So
right.
you've done a phenomenal job with doing that, and you look radiant. You are a queen, and God will continue to bless you and your family and bless your marriage. And
Oh, thank
you
you.
know, big ups to your husband. If we could ever get him on there, I would love to pick his brain. And
Yeah.
if he's that type of individual, if he's not showing the camera, tell him he is more than welcome to come on, and we can have a guys session and
Oh,
we talk
yeah.
about all that type of stuff. How do we love women better and things of that nature, and some of the things that he can teach us in regards to how to just deal with different personalities and different offenses and different people.
Oh, yeah. I've been telling him he needs to start speaking and to let guys know from a guy's perspective because I can say it, but I'm not a
Yeah,
guy. So at the
exactly,
end of the
exactly.
day, you're gonna
Right,
take.
and that's why. Yeah, and like I want to probe a lot of questions for you, but I think a lot of the answers I think he has. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So let him know that there's a lot of men that actually feel that way, and because there are a lot of wounded women in the world, and there are a lot of good guys that want to be able to love them to a better place, and it just is hard. It's really hard.
yeah.
Like, and I consider myself to be a good guy, but loving someone that hasn't had the therapy or the help that they need to get to a level playing field and with themselves, it makes it a lot difficult coming into a relationship. And we all just want to be loved. So definitely let him know he can definitely help us educate the world about that, and we look forward to it if he's interested.
Sometimes all the help you need is God.
Hey, talk about it.
That's all
But
you.
no, God put people too, so we need each other and we need God. So it's that Trinity.
Right. Hmm.
Sometimes that's all you need. That's it. So, good night.
Yes. Good night.
Be
Thank you.
blessed.
Huh?